Aloha! Welcome to 3 Levels of Enlightenment, sponsored by the United Galactic Federation of Planets. My name is Merlin, and I'm your tour guide. We have a program that is not Level 3. It's a Level 1 program, and for those of you that are familiar with the 3 levels, a Level 1 program is not supposed to offend anyone. A Level 3 program might offend anybody with a strong belief in religion, strong belief in science, or strong belief in government. And this program does talk about something that might offend people with a strong belief in religion. We're going to talk about the Holy Bible. But in the case of this program, we're going to use the Bible more as a resource than a holy book. So please bear with me. The information I'm about to reveal to you tonight is very important, and it should not be missed by anyone. The reason I say that is that some of my viewers have been encouraged not to watch Level 3 programs. In fact, the government of India has actually recommended people do not watch Level 3 because Level 3 talks about offending people with a strong belief in government or politicians. And naturally, a government might be worried that something in a Level 3 program could offend them. So in order to get this information out, it needs to be a Level 1 program. The Level 1 programs are PG-13, so I once again caution parents who have young children who might be frightened by the information I'm about to present. The unique thing about this information is that it all comes from 14 books of the Bible. And in 13 cases, it's the same chapter and verse in each book. In one case, it's the next chapter and the next verse in that book. To the left of me, you can see a chart that indicates the books that are used for this program. On this chart, it's broken down chronologically. These are the books as they come from the Bible in chronological sequence. For those of you that actually want to index your Bible to have these books, chapters, and verses, here's the way you would do it if you're going to sit down at a table and just go through the Bible book by book. But the other chart, the regroup chart, indicates the books as they are used in sequence in order to make the story more logical. But as we go through this, you will start to see a story unfolding. And miraculously, this story has been hidden for 2,000 years right under our noses. So let me give you an example of how to index your Bible. Here's that same Holy Bible, and if you notice, if I can get the reflection off the screen, we have Genesis 6:12, Exodus 6:12, Numbers 6:12, Deuteronomy 6:12, Judges 6:12, Isaiah 6:12, Ezekiel 6:12, Micah 6:12, and Zechariah 6:12. Then in the back, we've got Matthew 6:12, 2 Corinthians 6:12, Ephesians 6:12, 1 Timothy 6:12, and Revelation 7:13. So let's get started. What I have is a list of all 14 books and verses, but they've been rearranged in order to make more sense. This also has an enhanced version of the Bible. As many of you may know, a lot of the writing in the Bible uses Old English, lots of these and thous, and some of the later translations have made it more modern and more easy to understand. But since many of you may have a King James Version of the Bible, then you'll be using the chapters and verses from King James. And in order to help you identify the verse, besides just the number, I've listed the words from King James in bold, italicized. So as we go along, you'll have keywords that you can then pick up from your own version of the King James Bible, if you use King James. You'll also find those words in other versions of the Bible as well. So here we go. This is an explanation for 2012 from 13, 612s, and 1, 713. We start with Genesis 6:12. And the way we'll do this is for me to read through all of these verses without explanation, and then we'll go back and explain the meaning of each verse. In Genesis 6:12, God observed all this corruption in the world, and he saw violence and depravity everywhere. Micah 6:12, the rich among you have become wealthy through extortion and violence. Your citizens are so used to lying that their tongues can no longer tell the truth. 2 Corinthians 6:12, ye are not straitened in us, but ye are straitened in your own bowels. Matthew 6:12, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. That's important, very important. Ezekiel 6:12 plus verses 6:6, 6:7, and 6:8. Wherever you live, there will be desolation. I will destroy your pagan shrines, your altars, your idols. Then you will know that I am the Lord. Disease will strike down those that are far away. War will destroy those that are nearby. And anyone who survives will be killed by famine. So at last I will spend my fury on them. But I will let a few of my people escape destruction. Ephesians 6:12, for we are not fighting against people made of flesh and blood, but against principalities and authorities of the unseen world. Isaiah 6:12 plus 6:8, 6:9, 6:10, and 6:11. And you'll notice this entire section is bold print, so this all comes directly from the King James Version, except for one little word right there, the word dull, D-U-L-L. In the King James Version, you'll find the word fat, F-A-T. But apparently, in today's world, it makes more sense to say dull. And I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then said I, here am I, send me. And he said, go and tell this people, hear ye indeed, but understand not, and see ye indeed, but perceive not. Make the heart of this people dull, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and return and be healed. Then said I, Lord, how long? And he answered, until the cities are laid waste, and without inhabitant, and the houses without a man, and the land is utterly desolate, and the Lord have removed men far away. The Lord have removed men far away. We continue with Numbers 6:12 plus 6:5. If a person takes the special vow, setting himself apart to the Lord in a special way, he must never cut his hair throughout the time of his vow, for he is holy and set apart to the Lord. That is why he must let his hair grow long. He must dedicate himself to the Lord for the full term of his vow. Plus, in brackets here, 6:9, this comes directly from King James. And if any man die very suddenly by him, then he shall shave his head. Exodus 6:12 plus 6:10 and 6:11. Then the Lord tells Moses, go back to Pharaoh and tell him to let the people of Israel leave Egypt. But Lord, Moses objected, my own people won't listen to me anymore. How can I expect Pharaoh to listen? I'm no orator. Judges 6:12. The angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, Mighty hero, the Lord is with you. Zechariah 6:12. Tell him that the Lord Almighty says, Here is a man called the branch. He will build the temple of the Lord. He will branch out around the world from where he is. Deuteronomy 6:12. Be careful not to forget the Lord, who rescued you from slavery in the land of Egypt. 1 Timothy 6:12. Fight the good fight of faith. Lay hold on the eternal life that God has given you, to which you were also called. And then finally, Revelation 7:13 plus 7:14. Then one of the elders answered, saying to me, Who are these arrayed in white robes, and where did they come from? And I said to him, Sir, you know. So he said to me, These are the ones who came out of the great tribulation. So let's go back to our story and take each of those verses and see what they mean. In Genesis 6:12, God observed all this corruption in the world, and he saw violence and depravity everywhere. Well, I would say our world is corrupt. We have seen governments and rich people and companies do all kinds of corrupt things. You might say the entire mess on Wall Street was all because of corruption. On other programs, I've talked about credit default swaps and how the bankers, the investment bankers on Wall Street, were allowed to sell bogus investment vehicles, and countries around the world bought them. And in the process, the bankers became filthy rich. Now we have 4 countries that are on the verge of bankruptcy because they invested in these vehicles that were offered by the bankers on Wall Street. Those 4 countries are pigs: Portugal, Italy, Greece, and Spain. Well, they're only in that situation because of all the corruption on Wall Street. It was our people. And that's what this talks about. God observed all this corruption, and he saw violence and depravity everywhere. Well, in the United States, we murder 12,000 Americans every year. Let me repeat that. In the United States, we murder 12,000 of our citizens every year. It's 200 times the next most murderous country, which is Canada. Canada murders 60 people a year. Japan murders 30. I think Germany is 50 and England is 40. Well, the irony is, Canada is a country where people do a lot of hunting, and there are actually more guns per person in Canada than there are in the United States. But they only murder 60 people a year. We murder 12,000 people per year. We murder 200 times the next highest of all the countries with murders. Well, this talks about violence and depravity everywhere. God's looking at America, and it's a pretty sad sight. Then, in Micah 6:12, the rich among you have become wealthy through extortion and violence. I just mentioned that. The investment bankers on Wall Street, they paid themselves $100 million bonuses the year after the stock market crash. They got $2 trillion from Congress. That was our money, the citizens' money of the United States from the U.S. Treasury. The Treasury bailed them out, and so they didn't go bankrupt like Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers. And then they gave themselves $100 million bonuses for Christmas on top of their exorbitant pay that they already received. Well, you think maybe the rich among you have become wealthy through extortion and violence? Do you remember in the 2008 election, John McCain and Barack Obama had a debate scheduled, and John McCain almost canceled out on that one debate because of all the craziness going on Wall Street. The Wall Street bankers were blackmailing the United States government. They said, if you don't bail us out, if you let us go down like Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns, we will destroy the world economy. We will bankrupt the world. We will put the world into a major depression. That's called extortion. That's called extortion and violence. Plus, your citizens are so used to lying that their tongues can no longer tell the truth. Well, I hate to get politics involved in this, but here in Tucson, in Arizona, we have an interesting political campaign going on for the U.S. Senate. Senator John Kyle is retiring, and we have two other people that are running for his seat. The Republican is Jeff Flake, and the Democrat is Richard Carmona. Well, Carmona has been running some ads in which Senator John McCain and Senator John Kyle praise him to the hilt. They say that he's very highly qualified as a leader for this country in this campaign ad. The problem is they're using excerpts from his confirmation hearing before the Senate back 10 years ago when he was being appointed as Surgeon General for the United States. He was going to be Surgeon General under George W. Bush, a Republican. And 10 years ago, he was highly qualified. And according to McCain and Kyle, we were fortunate to have him taking over that leadership position. Well, Carmona has been using that testimony in his ads. The problem is he's now a Democrat. And Jeff Flake, the Republican, has come out with a counter ad in which McCain and Kyle both say Carmona has no integrity. Well, wait a minute. 10 years ago, he had all kinds of integrity. When he was helping the Republicans, he had lots of integrity. But 10 years later, today, when he's running as a Democrat, he has no integrity. Which John McCain are we to believe? Which John Kyle are we to believe? Do we believe the John McCain from 10 years ago? Or do we believe the John McCain from today? And the same for Kyle. So is it possible that your citizens are so used to lying that their tongues can no longer tell the truth? Well, not just citizens, politicians. They all lie. In fact, it's now fashionable to say one thing during the primaries and say something totally different during the general election. Which is the truth? Is it all lies? It's terrible. And we're all sick of it. But that's what this world's come to. And God sees this happening. It's tragic. 2 Corinthians 6:12, ye are not straitened in us, but ye are straitened in your own bowels. What the heck does that mean? Well, we have a medical profession that has become extremely wealthy. In fact, a lot of the hullabaloo in this election is about Obamacare. The medical profession is out of control. The costs for insurance and medicine have gone through the roof. They far outpaced inflation. Somebody's getting really rich. And it's sad because it need not be. It need not be. If you folks watch another video on YouTube that's about Jesus, the original Jesus, Jesus tells us how to be healthy. And it doesn't cost anything. It's free. Jesus never sent a bill. He healed all kinds of people, and he and the disciples never charged. Well, in today's world, there's big bucks in medicine and in healing, but it's because we don't know how to take care of ourselves. Now, in this verse, it says, ye are straitened in your own bowels. Well, would you believe that colon cancer is one of the major causes of death in our society today? Used to be smoking, but that's been pushed out. Now it's colon cancer. Well, your colon, there's 5 sections to your colon. You've got the ascending colon that comes up from your appendix. You have the transverse colon that goes across here under your diaphragm. You have the descending colon that goes down your left side. You have the sphygmoid, which is that little S device, and then you have the rectum. Well, that whole section, especially the last 3 sections, are like a big old sweat sock. And sweat socks can get crumpled up. They can get folds in them. And what happens is fecal matter, poop, gets stuck in those folds. And if it stays there too long, it turns into polyps and they become cancerous and you die. Well, the objective is straighten it out. If you have a sweat sock that's all crumpled up, straighten it out. Pop out those folds, and then all those polyps pop out with them. You straighten your bowels. Literally, you straighten your bowels. And there goes colon cancer. There goes one of the number 1 causes of cancer, which makes the medical profession very rich. Well, 2,000 years ago, we straightened our bowels, but not anymore. Modern medicine doesn't want us to know about that. The program I mentioned a moment ago about the original Jesus, he also tells how it's important to clean yourself out on the inside, that our bodies are like a temple that are all whitewashed and shiny on the outside, but they're full of all kinds of filth on the inside. Well, yeah, we need to clean out that lower part of our body. And Jesus tells us exactly how to do it. When you watch the Jesus video, he explains, get a gourd that has a vine the length of a man. You pull out the inside of the gourd, pull out the seeds and all the guts and the gourd part, and then you strip out the stem that's on the inside of the vine. Then you go down to the river, fill the gourd with warm water, hang it from a limb of a tree, the height of a man, and then let that warm water enter your rectum. You don't even put it inside. You just put it right up next to the rectum because the water will push its way in. It doesn't take much pressure. And you flush yourself out. And if you flush yourself out on a regular basis, you don't get sick. All that bad stuff comes out. At first you'll be horrified because you'll get chunks of meat that have been stuck in there for 15, 20 years. They'll be green and just smell horrifically. And they're trapped in there. They can't get out. You've got to flush them out. And Jesus said, we're full of all kinds of defilements on the inside that we don't take out, but we have to. That's a way to stay healthy. Now, you're not going to find any doctor that will agree with this. My mom is always telling me, Dr. Dina Dell says, no, enemas are bad, enemas are bad. Well, yeah, if people start doing enemas and clean themselves out with clear water, remember, Jesus said warm water from the river, nothing else in it. No wine, no coffee, just plain water. You get healthy. And if you're healthy, you don't need doctors, you don't need medical insurance, don't need anything. But see, it doesn't make rich guys richer. So it's all about simple things. That's what Jesus taught. And we don't know that anymore. We're stupid. Next one, Matthew 6:12. And forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Now, I mentioned, as we were reading through this, how important that statement is. It's not trespassers. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. In some Christian churches, that's how they say the Lord's Prayer. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. It's all about debts. The Orientals are right. There is a thing called karma. If you cause pain or injury to any living thing, you incur a debt, and it has to be cleared. And you either clear it in this lifetime, or you clear it in subsequent lifetimes. We do get reincarnated. We come down here for dozens of lives. You won't read that anywhere in the Bible. That's been taken out. I talked about that in one of the earlier programs. Debts must be repaid. And in our world today, there are a lot of people, especially Americans, that have enormous debts, and those are about to be repaid. My wife and I just finished designating the sanctuary. In another earlier show, I showed how we have a safe haven that is Interstate 80 on the north, Interstate 40 on the south, Interstate 81 on the east, and US 93 and 95 on the west. That's called the safe haven. That's a place that non-combatants can go once the counteroffensive gets fully underway. And in the middle of that safe haven is what's called the sanctuary. It's Interstate 15 from Las Vegas up to Interstate 70, then Interstate 70 all the way across the country to St. Louis, and then Interstate 64 from St. Louis down to Interstate 81. In time, you'll understand what that's all about. But we are in a counteroffensive. The events that we're seeing right now, this program is being filmed right after Hurricane Sandy. Well, Hurricane Sandy was 3 storms in one. It was a hurricane, it was a northeaster, and it was a snowstorm. And it's caused enormous damage and enormous hardship. At some point, people are going to start to think, maybe this wasn't natural. We've never seen a storm like this, ever, ever. If it's never happened before, then maybe it's not natural. If it's not natural, it's supernatural. Well, we're told this is 2012. These are the end times. We're in the last days. And just like Moses and the Pharaoh, there are plagues that are being brought down on the United States. We are in a counter-offensive. Hurricane Sandy is a plague. It's not just a storm. It's much more. There's going to be plenty more of this. At some point, people are finally going to start to realize something's going on. This stuff is not natural. Let's continue. Ezekiel 6:12. Wherever you live, there will be desolation. I will destroy your pagan shrines, your altars, and your idols. Were the World Trade Towers a pagan shrine? Were the World Trade Towers a symbol of capitalism, a very despicable form of economy in which the rich get richer and the poor get poorer? Capitalism does not help people. It makes rich guys richer and poor people poor. It's not a good system. And the World Trade Towers were like a pagan shrine. The military of the United States is another pagan shrine, the Pentagon. The Pentagon was hit on 9/11. I will destroy your pagan shrines, your altars, your idols. Then you will know that I am the Lord. Disease will strike down those that are far away. Have you guys been following the news about the spinal meningitis? The company back east that was putting out medication, vials of medicine with fungus, visible fungus in the bottles. War will destroy those that are nearby. Well, yeah, for 10 years, Iraq, Afghanistan, all to make rich guys richer. We did not invade Iraq to bring democracy to the Iraqis. They have yet to form a government. They've had elections, but they don't have a government. Well, what kind of democracy is that? Same in Afghanistan. The president of Afghanistan, Karzai, is a former oil company executive back here in the United States. He's from Afghanistan, but he's an oil man. What kind of democracy is that? War will destroy those that are nearby, and anyone who survives will be killed by famine. We had a drought this summer. No snow last winter, no rain this summer. The Midwest has had a massive drought. In the Great Plains, the farmers are selling off all their cattle. The ranchers are getting rid of their herds. The beef at Safeway right now is cheap. You can buy T-bones at Safeway for $4.99 a pound. Just a few weeks ago, it was $12.99 a pound. Well, it's because there's a flood of beef on the market. They're getting rid of all these cows because they can't feed them. There's no corn, there's no feed to feed the animals. So right now, we have some great prices. But come next year, NBC News tells us we're all going to pay $650 more per person for food because the cost of food is going to go right through the roof. There was no growing season last summer. Well, that's called a famine. Anyone who survives will be killed by famine. We're going to have a worldwide famine. In fact, the British are saying that something is killing the pigs. They don't know what it is, but something's killing them. They're not getting baby piglets. So the cost of bacon is going to go through the roof. So at last I will spend my fury on them, but I will let a few of my people escape destruction. Well, that's where our story comes in. I've been doing a whole series of programs about ships that are here to evacuate us from this planet. If you guys are interested, look at Ships 1 or Ships 2 online, and you'll understand where we're going to be escaped to. We're going to escape destruction. Ephesians, for we are not fighting against people made of flesh and blood, but against principalities and authorities of the unseen world. If all these events that are happening are not natural and they're supernatural, then somebody has to be behind it. Well, we know there are thousands and thousands of ships in our world right now. They actually control the weather. And the guy in charge is Commander Valiant Thor. He's an immortal who was 30 years old in 1929 when he wrote his book, Outwitting Tomorrow. He was 30 years old when he met with Eisenhower and Nixon in 1957. And he's 30 years old today. Well, he's a principality. Ephesians tells us we are not fighting against people made of flesh and blood, but against principalities and authorities of the unseen world. We have no defense. We must evacuate. That's the only answer. And it's coming. But remember, we're all going to make it. Pretty much all of us. There are some that have so much debt that they can't clear it, that will not be able to proceed with the rest of us. And there's another section in Revelation that talks about a lake of fire. Well, the folks that can't clear their debt are not going to move on with the rest of us. They can't move forward. And they end up in the lake of fire. Now that could just be metaphorically, I don't know. But if you've also noticed on the news, our volcano in Hawaii, Kilauea, has been going crazy for the last 2 weeks. We now have 2 lakes of lava. The Halimama fire pit in the main crater of Kilauea is now liquid. That's a half-mile across, and it's bubbling. First time it's done that in a long, long time. And the Pu'uo'o, the vent that was fountaining back at the beginning when this eruption began in '82, it's now also a lake of lava. Well, lakes of lava are lakes of fire. And there's something very important about Hawaii and the Big Island and the volcano. They all play a part. I haven't disclosed that in any of my programs. I haven't been given a green light to talk about that. But we'll see. That may come. Isaiah, and I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" Then said I, "Here I am, send me." I volunteered. In 2000, August of 2000, my wife's and my house on the Big Island burned to the ground. We lost our home. We were both gone at the time. She was going to school at the University of Hawaii in Hilo, and I was on a trip to Tahiti through Los Angeles. And my son called me at the Sheraton in LA and says, "Dad, your house burned down." It's like, no, how could that happen? So I immediately went home. But my wife and I both decided that maybe this was a sign. And we'd had good lives, we had wonderful families, we'd enjoyed our time on earth, but if God was calling us home, we were ready. But if God was not calling us home, if we were to stay, we both dedicated the rest of our lives to God's work. And since August of 2000 until today, 13 years, it's been a wild ride. And I tell people I could write several sets of encyclopedias from all the stuff I've been taught. It's been quite an experience. But we volunteered. We said, we will dedicate the rest of our lives to your service. Here I am, send me. And he said, "Go tell this people, hear ye indeed, but understand not, and see ye indeed, but perceive not. Make the heart of this people dull, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and return and be healed. Well, I've tried. What is this? The 30th program? Plus, we tried to contact 2 presidents, Clinton and Bush Jr. We passed out 335 sets of booklets to the ruling party of Congress in 2003. We passed it out to the Republicans in the House and the Senate. I sent 198 DVDs and cover letters to every nation in the United Nations. We contacted all kinds of friends and family. So we've contacted hundreds, if not more than 1,000 people. No response. Just a very few people have responded. And that's been the problem. Go tell the people, hear ye indeed, but understand not. Then said I, Lord, how long? And he answered, until the cities are laid waste. Well, if you go to New Jersey right now, there's some cities there that have been laid waste. And I hate to say, there's more to come. The house is without a man, and the land is utterly desolate. And the Lord have moved men far away. Well, these programs at the first level are all about departures to Alpha Centauri. There's a way for us to leave this world, and we don't die. And we have thousands and thousands of ships in position all over the planet that are ready to evacuate us to Alpha Centauri. These are called Victor ships. There's 3,300 of them. In previous programs, I've showed you what they look like on the inside and the outside. Plus, we have other ships as well. They all came in September of 2011. From September 9th to September 16th, for 7 days, we had thousands of ships come into our world. And they've been positioned all over the planet. People have seen them at Christmas. Lots of people uploaded videos of ships up above them. We've been hearing them since January. They make some really strange noises. They've been testing out their sound systems. And recently, we've been seeing lights that are being tested on the ships. I even saw one last month. It turned out to be a bright blue light. It was in the middle of the night, and it lit up the entire neighborhood. And then it went off. It wasn't a meteorite. It was a very bright light overhead, and it lit up a huge area of Tucson. And people all over the country are seeing these lights. Well, they're testing their systems, the sound systems, the light systems, the whole works. But they're here. They're here to help. They're here to get us out of here. So don't be afraid. Know that we are loved, and we're all going to make it, except for a very small few. Numbers. If a person takes the special vow, setting himself apart to the Lord in a special way, he must never cut his hair throughout the time of the vow. Well, guess what? Haven't cut this hair since May of 2009. And it's a pain in the butt, if I may use my French. For he is holy and set apart to the Lord. That is why he must let his hair grow long. He must dedicate himself to the Lord for the full term of his vow. Now here's a curious sidelight. In 2008, Dr. Frank Stranges, a very close friend and mentor to my wife and me, and my youngest cousin, Becky, both died. Becky died of cancer. Doc died of blood poisoning. Becky died on Halloween, October 31st, 2008, and Doc died on November 17th, 2008. They were very close to me. Numbers 6:9 says, if any man die very suddenly by him, then he shall shave his head. I forgot about this verse, and I shaved. I let my hair grow out until that time, and then when Becky died and Doc died, I shaved. And then it wasn't until June of 2009 that I started growing it back. Well, that complies with the prophecy that I had to shave. Exodus 6:12. Then the Lord tells Moses, go back to Pharaoh and tell him to let the people of Israel leave Egypt. But Lord, Moses objected, my own people won't listen to me anymore. How can I expect Pharaoh to listen? I'm no orator. Well, that hits close to home. How many programs have I made? Nobody listens. And I'm not much of an orator. I just sit here and babble on, but nobody listens. It's sad. The angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, mighty hero, the Lord is with you. Well, I do get continual encouragement. I wish I could see these angels. I sense their presence. I know they're around all the time. In fact, this television studio, 100,000, 10,000, we have 10,000 angels right now in this TV studio listening to this program. So we are continually surrounded by them. We do see evidence of their presence, and they do tell my wife and me that we're doing the right thing. We are doing God's work, which is encouraging. Zechariah, tell him that the Lord Almighty says, here is a man called the branch. He will build the temple of the Lord. He will branch out around the world from where he is. Now, I received this information 8 years ago. And for the last 8 years, I've been trying to figure out who is this man called the branch. Apparently, he's very powerful because he's going to branch out around the world from where he is. Well, apparently, he's going to carry this message. He's going to do a better job of it than I've done. And people apparently are going to listen to him. Now, if this guy is able to branch out around the world, then he must be very influential. He must be powerful. He must be respected. He must be able to get the world's attention. Well, there's only one man who might be that powerful and that well respected, but he's called the branch. How do we explain all this about the branch? In the government of the United States, we have three distinct organizations. We have the judicial branch, which are the courts. We have the legislative branch, which is Congress. And we have the executive branch, which is run by the president, who is a man. The president is a man. And he is the executive branch. He's the only part of the three sections of government that has one guy in charge. And he is the man called the executive branch. The man called the executive branch. Remember what Zechariah tells us? Tell him that the Lord Almighty says, here is a man called the branch. He will build the temple of the Lord. In other words, he's going to do God's work, and he will branch out around the world from where he is. This is all going to happen before December 21st, 2012. It's only in a matter of weeks. There is only one man who is the executive branch today. He will be the executive branch up until December 21st, 2012. That man's name is Barack Obama. Now, as I love to tell people, it's not an accident that he was born in Hawaii. He was born in Hawaii. Donald Trump, he was born in Hawaii. Hawaii is a very special place. It's only appropriate that the last ruler of this world was born in Hawaii. That will become more evident as the time goes by. Deuteronomy 6:12. Be careful not to forget the Lord who rescued you from slavery in the land of Egypt. That's a reminder. God is with us. God will be here. God is watching over all this. We're going to make it. Pretty much all of us are going to make it. 1 Timothy 6:12. Fight the good fight of faith. Lay hold to the eternal life that God has given you, to which you were also called. Remember, we're all immortal. We have a third body. Our etheric body is immortal. We never die. It's all of our memories. We'll take everything we've experienced in this life and in all the other lives prior to this, all the times we were reincarnated, and we will always remember. We are eternal. We have an eternal life that God gave us. And lastly, Revelation 7:13 and 14, then one of the elders answered, saying to me, who are these arrayed in white robes, and where did they come from? And I said to him, Sir, you know. And he said to me, these are the ones that came out of the great tribulation. These are the ones that came out of the great tribulation. This period that we're in right now, these last days, these end times, this is the tribulation. And those of us that make it are going to have white robes. And they will know that it's us. Most of us will survive. It's not the end of the road. There's something much better. As I love to tell people, it's like we've been in school. We've been in elementary school, junior high school, and high school. And we are now in the last day, in the last minute, in the last few seconds of high school. And we're all about to graduate. And we're going to a much better place. It's been an exciting experience. We've learned, which is what this is all about. Living a life is the best way to experience life. You can read all the books and manuals you want. I flew 4 different planes at my airline. Flew DC-8, L-1011, DC-10, and 767. And every time they would give us a mountain of manuals, about that high. We had to memorize them. I had to know those airplanes inside and out. But I didn't know how to fly them until I sat in the cockpit and flew the plane. It's the same with life. You don't understand a life until you live one. Practical experience. And that's what this has been all about. We've had kindergarten through senior year of practical experiences on this earth. And now it's time to graduate, and we go on to something better. And we know that there have been other civilizations here before us. We have evidence of all kinds of other groups. The Great Pyramid in Egypt was built by somebody with a much greater technology than we have. That pyramid has 2.5 million granite and limestone blocks that each weigh up to 60,000 pounds, 30 tons. And they're cut so perfectly that you can't put a razor blade in between them. We can't build that. It's a technology that's beyond us. Who built it? They're not here. They're gone. Well, they moved on. The same with the Easter Island idols. Whoever made those, they moved on. The Aztecs, the Incas, the Mayans, they all moved on. Whoever built Stonehenge, they're not here. They moved on. It's a natural progression for intelligent species to come down here and live so many thousands of years to experience life. In fact, Adam would have fit right in to our world today. He wasn't any less developed than we are. He would have been able to go to school and learn whatever he wanted. He could have operated a cell phone, a laptop, a PC. He would have fit right in. We haven't changed. We do not evolve. We have always been humans. Now, animals, plants, and everything else evolve. They're here to stay. They're part of the ship. They're part of the aircraft carrier. But we're visitors. We're just tenants, and we come and go. And it's a natural progression. And we're now at the end of our time on Earth. And it's okay. It's time for us to move on. Nothing to fear. So I hope this has been enlightening for you folks. That's why these programs are called 3 Levels of Enlightenment. I hope I haven't offended anyone with this information, and hope to have you back on another occasion. At this point, I'd like to say aloha and ahui ho. Until next time.